let's start. So welcome to this session. I call it Elementary, as an homage to Sherlock Holmes and his assistant, Dr. John Watson, because I'm going to show how to incorporate Watson in your Domino applications using IBM Cloud and Node-RED. So first I want to thank all our sponsors here. As you know, without those, this conference will not be possible. So go and talk to them at the show floor and look at their products and see how they can help you. I use some of their products myself, and I'm highly satisfied with them. I'm Karl-Henry Martinsson. My company is Demand Better Solutions, and I've been programming since I was in 7th grade. In the end of September, I've been in the IT industry for 30 years. My first job was right out of school in Microsoft Sweden, doing tech support. And I've been more or less a full-time programmer since 1991. I started with Nodes and Domino in 94, first as a user, and the next year, 95, as a developer. I was working as a journalist at the time, and I've done some internal applications. Then I moved over to Boston from Sweden, became a full-time Nodes developer, and that's where I'm at. I'm also a business partner and a number member. My company, Demand Better Solutions, we focus on the user experience and the user interface, both on modernization, moving either Nodes application to the web, or just making it more fancy and better looking. We also do some migration, data migration in and out of different systems, and integration of different systems. And I try to take advantage of modern tools like jQuery, Bootstrap, all those frameworks that make it possible for me to build something much quicker and not have to spend all the time on designing things. I can get to the point and build a functionality that the users need. So this is a typical old Domino web application. This one was probably done sometime around 2000. You can tell it's an R5 because of these little icons. They use the R5 icons on the toolbar, or supposed to be a toolbar. And of course, this is not very pretty. But adding some Bootstrap, a little bit CSS, and adding some jQuery. I kept most of the business logic here because they had a lot of JavaScript business logic. I just added a few little touches, and you can fairly easily pretty up a web application. But what if you want to do something more, things you can't do natively in Nodes Domino? You want to connect to other systems. You want to do something fancy like language translation on the fly, or text-to-speech, things like that. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to be using IBM Cloud. It used to be called BlueMix. I'm going to explain about that, what Node-RED is, talk a little bit about the Watson services, and then how to integrate that into your own solutions. I'm going to show both using the Nodes client, using some old classes that I wrote, some JavaScript classes, and also show one of the new classes in Nodes 10, how you do it there. And also going to show some web applications that are hosted, in my case, on the Domino server, but they can be hosted anywhere, and still connect to IBM Cloud. So IBM Cloud, as I said, it's formerly known as IBM BlueMix. That's their IBM's platform as a service. And it's all mature technology. It's based on Cloud Foundry, which came out in 2011, if I remember correctly, and was created by some VMware engineers. And then that went into open source a few years later, 2013. And the hardware it's running on is the software infrastructure. It's also a company that was founded in 2005, and IBM bought them a few years ago. I think it was 2013, 2014. And IBM Cloud supports a whole bunch of tools and services, I think like 170 or so. You could do everything from Node.js to SQL and everything in between. We could look at two, Node-RED and Watson API. So here's Node-RED. How many here went to Chris Hiller's session? Okay, so a few of you did. So I'm going to do a little bit of recap of what Node-RED is. Basically, it was a great session, and if you didn't go to it, I think it's going to be recorded and going to be up on the web. So Node-RED is IBM's low-code development platform. It was created by IBM. It was open source in 2016. And it's been described as a flow-based programming for Internet of Things. So that was the original idea, to make it easy to create IoT applications. But it has expanded and required to get all different kinds of services. And you could call different APIs and even hardware. What's nice with it is that one click deployment, you click on one button and your application gets deployed. Nothing complicated, it's really easy to do things. It's built on Node.js, so it's event-driven and non-blocking, so it's asynchronous. And it's very light with runtime. If you run the Raspberry Pi, I actually do that. Not for this presentation, but I have it running on one of my Raspberry Pis. And that's pretty darn impressive. It's also available as a Docker container, and as I said, on IBM Cloud. It's browser-based. You click and drag your components, they're called nodes. And you have the palette on the side, right there, with a large number of different nodes you can use. You have input and output nodes. There can be things like HTTP, WebSockets, email, Twitter. You have function nodes where you can switch and split and do join and do all kinds of functions. The really nice thing is that you use JavaScript inside these nodes. If nodes cannot do exactly what you want, you just write some JavaScript. You can manipulate the data that flows through. All the payloads, everything that goes through is stored in a message object. And the payload part is stored in a message called payload. You're going to see that later, and that's what we're going to use the most. And you use a regular JavaScript return statement to pass that message to the next node. So return in this case is not return back, it's actually sending it on to the next node. Watson services, as I said, there's a huge number of different services. Things like conversation, bots, virtual agents, document classification, what the document is about, creating tags automatically for you. Natural language classifier, see if it's a positive or negative tone on the text. There's visual recognition, send in a photo and identify what's on the photo. Language translator, which we're going to use. And speech to text, text to speech, we're going to use the latter. And of course, many more. Just that all day, just list everything they have. So let's start from the beginning. Assume that you have never used IBM Cloud before. You create an account, it's free for 30 days. They also have a totally free version that has some limitations, but it will let you play around a lot initially. And again, I highly recommend getting that. Otherwise, you pay with a credit card as you go, because you pay for the services you have. If you don't do anything, just shut down your services. They stay there, and it doesn't cost you anything. I had a service laying around for almost a year. Didn't start up, didn't cost me a cent. So what we're going to do is set up the account. We set up a Node-RED instance, or a Node-RED application, add the Watson services we want to use, which will be language translator and text-to-speech, and then we wire it together. So this is what the dashboard looks like. You see at the top, here's our Node-RED application. Down here, we have the text-to-speech and translation. Later on, we're just going to link them together, and then we can start using it. You can configure your Node-RED application, so how many instances and how much memory you want to give to them. This is default, it's one instance, 256 megs of memory, which is perfectly fine. As I said, it's really lightweight. And then you connect you create connection to services, and that allows the flows inside Node-RED to access the services. Next, we're going to create a translation flow. This is what we do the actual translation. So I'm going to use an HTTP input. That's then going to be the endpoint for the application calling the translation service. Then we add a node for Watson Translate, and then HTTP response is what sends back to the calling browser the translated text in this case. As I mentioned before, you use message or payload, but the translation node wants things in a slightly different format. So I'm going to have two functions here, one to process the incoming JSON to fit what the translation node wants. And then, since I'm calling this from an external website, it's not in the same domain, I cannot do regular AJAX call. So I cannot get JSON back, I need to get JSON-P, because the JSON padding. What that is the returned data is a string that has the function name. It looks like what you call a function. So you have the function name, parentheses, and then the data, and parentheses. So that gets returned back to the calling browser, and then that function name, that function that I defined, will be executed. So there you have the security that the same function name needs to be defined on both sides. So there's no way to spoof code here, so it's a security issue. And when we create these, then we just connect them together, click them together, and then we test it. So this is what the flow looks like. It's, as you can see, just drag lines between them. So here's the first function. This is one that takes the incoming payload, and if you're familiar with how it works when you do an AJAX call, you send JSON object over. So that's coming in the payload here. The message I want to translate, I put in message. So when I call it, I do message colon and then the text. In my JSON object, I'm calling from the browser. I'm coming over here at message.payload.message, where it's g.payload.message. But the translation node wants this for the text just in payload. They don't want the whole object that's coming in, they just want the text. So that's what I'm doing here. Just a regular JavaScript assignment. And then I return it to pass it on to the next node. You can write this a little bit more complicated. In this case, I'm checking, am I passing a from value, so from language, and if that's blank or doesn't exist, I'm defaulting to English. Otherwise, I'm setting the language to whatever I pass over. Same thing with the to language. And then I'll do the same translation here at the bottom. So this is just a way I can set my default languages, and I can override it. Because that's the first thing users are going to ask if you build something like this. About 10 milliseconds, you're going to ask how to select languages. Here's the created JSON P, and I call the function show translate text. And as you can see, a JavaScript object here that building. So translate colon and then the translate text. And this is how you call it on the web. Just 3 elements. You have an input field. That's where the user enters the text to translate. I have a button, and I have in this case, an empty div where the translate text is going to show up. I'm using jQuery because it's easy and quick to write. and I've got the built-in functionality. So when the translate button is clicked, it will execute this function. What I'm doing here is I'm building the JSON. Here's the message I talked about. That ends up in the payload. So this whole object ends up in payload. So that's why payload.message will be the text. Payload.from, payload.to. In this case, I'm actually putting in the languages. And here's how I call it. That's a URL to call on my BlueMix.net. And I call the endpoint /translate. That's the name of the flow. Say it's JSONP, the data, and I just call it. When the data comes back, it will execute the callback function, which is down here. Show translated text, the same one as we saw earlier. And we just take the data, take the translated value from JSON come back, and put it in this div up here. That's all it's doing. You can write this in, of course you can write this in regular plain JavaScript if you want to, whatever you're comfortable with. No reason to use jQuery if you don't want to. So, let's see what this looks like. So, here's the node. Just show real quick. Here's all the code. Here's the translation. In this case, I'm hard coding here to the source and target language, but if I pass those variables over, I can select language. So, can everyone see this? Too small? So I enter a little bit text. Good morning, I hope you're having a great day. Let's translate. And it comes out in Spanish. I actually had a former co-worker who's from El Salvador look at some of the translations, and she was very impressed. It's better than the Google Translate, because Watson looks at the whole paragraph, the whole sentence, analyzes what the meaning is with the whole thing, not as word by word, and translating accordingly. So if you want a really good quality translation, this is much better than what Google can offer. So let's do exactly the same thing in Notes. We use LotusScript. We create a form, has same layout pretty much. You have an input text, you have a translation button, you have output text, which is a hidden field, and then I have a display output text. It's not using computer text, as the slide says. It's actually a display for computer display field. The reason I do that is you can't edit it, it just shows up as plain text. I could use computer text, but at least a long time ago, if you printed a notes form or a notes document that had computer text, the computer text did not print. So I got in the habit to use computer for display fields. I'm going to use on the button some LotusScript to call the URL, same URL as before, and also parse the JSON coming back. I'm going to use my own HTTP classes. I publish them on my blog. Feel free to go there and pull them down. They are Windows only because I'm using the COM object that's only in Windows. If you want to do this on other platforms, there are probably other ways to do this. You'll use Java, etc. Then we also have the new classes in Domino 10, which is the first time in many years we got something new there. We have the Notes HTTP request, which is not in beta 1, it will be in beta 2. They have that in a previous intermittent build that I tried out a week ago. So the code I'm going to show you is actually real code that's working. The Notes JSON navigator is what you use to parse the JSON being passed back. that will, according to IBM says or HCL says, not be in beta 2 yet. They're still working on it. So this is my code. At the top, I call my script library where I have my HTTP class. Then just regular code here, regular LotusScript code. I'm reading the input text. I'm building the URL and replacing the space with a plus for URL encoding. Then I'm calling my get HTTP function in my class and pass the URL on. I get the response back, which is the JSON as text. I have a little function here that will parse and look for, in the response, look for the value translated and put that in text Spanish. And then I'll display that in the field, and I'll do refresh to have the complete display field to show it. All this code is going to be on my blog. I got the whole presentation there. And I will also put up my sample database that actually has the code. So this is what it looks like in Domino 10. Differences are bolded. Added use a node session here, and we'll use that to create the HTTP request. Here's the new object. Down here, set HTTP equals session that create HTTP request. That creates the link to the URL. And then I'm performing a HTTP get, passing the URL, same as we have up here. I get the response back. Since HCL has built the HTTP parser, I didn't know what the syntax is going to be. They don't really know it themselves yet. So I'm using my function here to parse JSON again to get the text out. And then the same code. So it's very little code that need to be changed. Again, let's make this look like. Translates, write the notes. As you can see, it's pretty quick. So, as I said, about 10 milliseconds after you show this to the user, they can ask, how can I select languages myself? And we just add 2 drop-down boxes, and we pass on the languages as additional arguments in the JSON object. Just a few more lines of code. What I'm doing here is, for it to be easier for the users, in my drop-down, I'm having the language and then the internal abbreviation that the translation is using, EN, ES, the different country codes, as an alias. So they will select English, but EN will be sent over. So here's the changes in the code. Adding 2 variables, reading the format2 language, adding it into the URL. The rest is the same. We could actually write it even more compact if we want to. Put it all together in one place here. Makes the code more compact, but also a little bit harder to read. I prefer having it easier to read in a few more lines. So, what I actually discovered while I was working on this is that they have even more languages now than they had just a few months ago. So do good morning again, but this time let's do it in Danish or in Dutch, or why not in Hindi? slow. Or my native language, Swedish. And of course you can go from a whole bunch of other languages as well. So next we're going to do is text-to-speech. Looks pretty much like the previous one. We have the text in an HTTP node. We modify the text a little bit. In this case, we send it to the text-to-speech end node that we drag in from the palette here and there on the side. Modify the response a little bit and send it back. When you do the text-to-speech, you have some more settings. You can say what voice it should be, what file format should be sent back. You also set in the HTTP header, you have to tell it it's audio you're sending back so that the browser will process it correctly. But everything is in just these dialog boxes here, so it's very easy to do. You see the modifying is very similar. In this case, I'm passing the text as text instead of message. I could call it anything. I could have kept message here if I wanted to, and the code would be identical to before. When we return something, the text-to-speech node will put the sound file, the string, in the speech part of the message.speech. But we need to send it back as the payload. So that's what I'm doing here, just loading from one place to another and then passing it on. This is how I do call it in the browser. Similar to before, have one input field, one button, and a div. This div is going to be an iframe. Why I'm doing that is an iframe is isolated from the rest of the page. So I can do things there that are a little more dangerous according to the browser. In this case, calling an external file, that's considered a little bit dangerous. But I just build a new web page or a new HTML page inside this iframe that will just point to the URL where that I'm getting the endpoint in Node. So here's the base URL. Giving text value. I'm adding the text value to the end. This is the text. If I call this message on the previous page, I'm going to use msg.payload.message instead. So that's where that's come from. And here I'm building an iframe and passing the URL in, a little bit on size, etc. And then I take this iframe and append it into the ID up here. This may look complicated, but when you start looking at this, it isn't really nothing exceptional. It's just regular jQuery or JavaScript. So here's the demo.
Good morning. Welcome to this presentation.
As you see, it's very simple. It's not a lot of code you have to do to get text to speech. So now comes the obvious thing. What do we do after this? Well, let's take and put these two together. We take the translation and then text to speech. So we send in English text, translate to Spanish, and have it read back in Spanish. For someone that doesn't know Spanish like me, then that could be really useful tool. So here's the text-to-speech that we had, and here I built a two-step process. First, translate the text, convert it to speech, and send it back. So basically, I was taking the same code that we have in the two previous one, putting them together. Setting the payload to the text, translate from English to Spanish. I hard-coded this time. Here I do, say, Latin American Spanish, and the voice is female voice, and I return as an MP3. Do this little, move this stuff around, and then I return it here. Here you can see what I talked about earlier, that you need to set the right content type in the header, so that the browser will recognize that this is a SOM file. So let's see what this looks like. Sounds like another. How many here speak Spanish, by the way? So then you're responsible for telling me if this is correct.
Buenos días. Espero que tengan un día maravilloso.
So, as you can see, it's very easy to consume Watson services. If you're using Node-RED, you don't hardly have to do any kind of, you don't have to do complicated API calls or complicated code. You just build the modules there.
I thought that was going to do that and print it out.
No, I did that in print out. We can do that, of course, but in this case, I just did a translation.
Okay.
That's text-to-speech.
You showed it, you brought it back in an iframe. The iframe isn't rendered at all on the screen?
No, the only thing that's in the iframe is the SOM file. So that's what you hear. Of course, you can bring it back, you can display something there, you can have little icons like that. It's easy to do.
And are the Watson services, how's that priced? Is that like, does it have to do with how much, how many requests there are, the volume of the requests?
That's correct. There are different levels. You have the free service. We can use it almost as much as you want for free. The translation service is part of that. So if you get the standard version, the free version, you can do a lot of translations. There's probably some kind of cap how much you can use it, but the only thing is that I think you have to use it every 30 days or log in every 30 days or 60 days, otherwise it's going to be, they drop it. And I'm not sure if the text-to-speech is included or you have to go to a premium for that, but for all of them you pay per, I think it's basically per hour, it's like 25 cents per hour or something like that for 2 hours. It depends how much memory you have, how much processing power you use. And then you pay for the individual services. So you kind of wire to get pay-as-you-go. It's like a, not as a buffet, but it's a la carte. You pick exactly what you want and you pay for that. So you don't pay for things you don't need. But the free version has a lot of functionality that you can use before you need it, before you need to go to a paid version.
I wonder how you quantify that. If you want to sell a solution to a customer, they're going to want to, how much am I going to pay at the end of the year? It's kind of hard to predict that.
They have some kind of calculation to calculate that, but easiest is to have the client put in their credit card. Then they pay for it. And you just charge for your services.
Okay.
So as a conclusion, IBM Cloud is easy to set up, very convenient to use. As we just talked about, it's as the free version or the pay-as-you-go premium version. No dread, really easy, click and drag between the nodes and use regular JavaScript. There are even nodes that let you do the same things I did. Take the message.payload, convert it to something else. I will use that because I want to show you that you can write any regular JavaScript in there. You can show how to integrate it with web pages and nodes client. Use JavaScript, jQuery is optional. I'm sure you can build the same thing with PHP and whatever other tools you want. There's nothing here that's any magic, it's just a URL call really. I showed the LotusScript with the custom classes that I created, and also showed the new HTTP request that's in Domino 10. I was not able to get the JSON parse class in because they haven't finalized that yet. Any more questions?
Can you show your class?
Sure. Here I have it in a bunch of places. So just a simple class using the MS-XML to server XML HTTP object. So create a new one. Here's the get HTTP that we call. Just adds the URL in here. I'll look through and do retries until I get the response back. Since you can't just wait for a callback in LotusScript. And so I check the status here. And I go out till I get either 200 for success back or the 44 or I get start status higher than 500. If I got 200 back, meaning success, I just read the response text up to 1600 characters. And then just return that back here to the call function. This is the whole thing.
So how much of that goes away with Domino 10?
All of it.
Oh, okay.
Come. And it's going to work on all platforms, not only Windows.
Yeah.
So it's something that I just had built in the past because it didn't exist. So I'm very excited having it built into the product. But for everyone that's on Social and lower, go to my blog and grab this code. It's out there. Any more questions?
So when you use Domino 10, you still pay for the Watson?
Yeah. The only thing I'm doing there is that I'm not calling my own script library, I'm calling the built-in functions. The script.
Can you send Watson like a chapter in a book or something like that and get the formatting right?
I believe you can. In this case, I used the HTTP get, which of course has a limit on how much you can send, but you can do an HTTP post. So if I would go in Node-RED here, change this from get to post, I can take much more data. So it's, yeah, that's really doable. I don't know what the limits are and how long it will take it for it to translate, and time out and things like that. Just try it.
Okay.
Here's my contact information. Got my company website, my personal website, and my blog. And if you go to my blog in a couple of days, you'll find all this information out there. I'll probably put it on SlideShare too, so if you're connected to me on LinkedIn, you can see the presentation there too. And I'm going to upload the NSF with all the code on my blog as well. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, just getting lined up.